Well, my name's Eric Ferrell. I'm superintendent at Caverns Country Club. I've been there for 10 years now. The greens are bent POA push-up greens. So they're approaching a little over, 50 years old.
Can you help explain like the testing we did before we got started and kind of your
Yeah, sure.
impression of how we did the turf audit?
Yeah, so what we did was we went in and we tested, for kind of all the normal nutrients and things that were in the soil like that. But we also did a mechanics test to kind of see our organic layer within the top inch. I want to believe, just correct me if I'm wrong, the bottom 3 inches below that and a little bit below that. And so what we kind of did was we got a percentage of those organic numbers in the top inch and in the 3 inch and then below that. And then what we had found, which I kind of knew by eyesight, is we're very thatchy. We have a lot of organic material up top, and that's kind of what led me to kind of look, search you out and kind of get a game plan as to how we're going to start attacking this without
Right.
being crazy aggressive with aerification and everything. I mean, we're going to have to add that in, no doubt, but I started toying with the idea maybe there's a better way to get there quicker without aerifying once a month.
Right.
So, and that's kind of what started our journey.
Right. Yeah. Well, let's get into the Predict N7. What's been your experience with it?
So it's been wonderful. To begin with, we started off, using the app. You had showed me that in our initial meetings, and I was almost sold on that because the app itself is based exactly what's on our location. It's not this nationwide one size fits all type situation to where it's looking at my golf course, my weather, the weather that's coming up 2 weeks from now, and kind of gauging on, hey, this is what we're seeing. This is kind of what the grass, the soils might be doing. And then you kind of take it from there as to what you do with it. So that
Right.
that was wonderful. I think we started the program at the end, no, at the end of April, beginning of May. And weather for us was very typical for May. And then it kind of switched. June got extremely hot and dry. And that's the way I think it's been for a lot of people in Virginia. But the app kind of recognized that we were starting to get hot early. You have the option to turn on these stress points and kind of say, let's switch gears. We might need to slow down what we're doing. And the app kind of tells you, it makes it kind of easy to work through, if that makes sense.
No, it does. It does. When you started using the Predict N, what did you or your members see initially?
So, right out of the gate, and I want to say within the first 3 sprays, because now typically to backtrack just a little bit, I had always been, light on the end, very light on the end, but we were heavy growth regulator users, just because we've got some thatch going on, organic material that was releasing. So we were always light on the end, but really heavy on the growth regulator. So our greens were never really green. Now our members got used to that. It was okay, but they never had kind of a healthy look, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So within the first 3 weeks, we kind of dialed that way back on the growth regulator, and texture started to change a little bit. The color was almost immediate. And we've been able to keep that color, May, June, now we're almost into August, for the past 3 months.
Right.
And just now started to introduce growth regulators back in over the past month at very low rates than what I was using in the past, just because we've got some stuff releasing. It's hot. So we've thrown those back in a little bit, but I'm willing to bet in a normal year, and as we get these numbers down, the organic numbers down, I don't see why you would have to use growth regulators. I really don't.
Yeah, we've seen people that don't have to use growth regulators, and we got guys that that still do. And it really, like you said, comes back to how much organic nitrogen is in the ground and when is it releasing.
Yes.
And if you have more than the plant can metabolize, it has to store it. And then that triggers topical growth and you need a growth regulator. So, Predict
Yeah.
N is not saying you don't need growth regulators. It's just, it will tell you if you do.
Right, right. And that's where I think we're at. We've just got a higher organic number, so we're releasing some in, and we're kind of growing as this weather has been not very typical for us in this area. I mean, we normally do not. We get hot in the summer, like we're still Virginia, but we don't typically hit 98, 196 consecutive days like we've been doing. So
Right.
this has been a little bit different, but I'll add that the greens, for the most part, other than we've got some little moisture issues here and there. The health of the greens is wonderful. I mean, they're beautiful looking.
Right. They
Yeah, I
are.
mean, yeah, texture is tight. Um, the color is wonderful. So, and we really haven't battled anything like we would have battled in the past, just because I think we're kind of giving that plant what it needs, other than just trying to suffocate it with growth regulators and just keep it in check. So
Right.
yeah.
Right. What about rooting? Have you noticed anything with rooting through the season?
Yeah, so rooting has, I'm for this summer, I'm happy where we're at. I am very happy where we're at. And I think as we continue this program, I think it's going to get better. I really do. um we're probably, I think we started within, I'd have to look back at our soil tests again, but we were at 3-inch roots, something around there, and we've taken on another inch easy, even with this weather the way it is. So I
Right.
think we continue this program later into the fall, then we couple that with some aerification, because that we're going to have to do that. I'm expecting to see some pretty fantastic results in another season.
I I agree. And I think, in 2024, this has been a brutal summer, probably the
It
worst
it,
in a decade. And
it has been
Predict
for, yeah,
N,
it has been for me.
yeah, and I think Predict N is showing its real strength. When things are really under stress, it's capturing it. And it's
Yes,
allowing superintendents to even adjust it a little bit more based on the settings that they get to use. But,
yes,
watching the weather, we've gone from a mild spring to wet to dry to hot and dry to
yep.
hot and humid.
Hmm.
And, the I think what makes Predict N pretty strong is the consistency with putting greens. They're not really
That's
changing, even though the weather is changing.
right, and that's what I was going to add next. Is that's also one of my favorite things about this, if that's the right word, is just the consistency and the ease of use. So now that I'm into this program for say 3 months, we know what we can expect. We know we're
Right.
not, when we spray, we know that we're going to see a good response. We know where we're at, and that's wonderful. I mean, like I've told you before, keeping it simple is is great for us.
Right. Right.
Yeah. I know you can turn it into rocket science, and that's wonderful, but I like to try and keep it simple. So it's that's been great.
What other have you seen any cost savings anywhere else on the course or time savings or
So for one, yes, the growth regulators. I mean, that's a no doubt. Yeah, we've been able to save on that. But this, with this weather being the way that it is, just with our situation in the drought, that's been tough. But I think if we had a typical normal year, because in the past we were always big hand water guys, and I know that's the thing to do, but I think some of our issues just were the plant was kind of a little bit under stress, and we kept it that way. I think by spraying this, I think we are going to see savings in that regard.
right?
Yeah, I really do.
Yeah, because we've seen some guys that when you really start addressing the soils, with our soil products, and then using Predict N, that the soils change, and then their hand watering change, and it is getting easier and better. And that theme that we're hearing from other people is they just want their lives to be a little easier.
Yep.
And would you say Predict N makes your life a little bit easier?
Oh, by far. Yeah. The ease of using it, the app, it's a very simple process. It's very cut and dry, but it also tells you exactly what's happening. And that's everything to me. That's
Right.
key. You
Right.
know, simple is great, but you can also see exactly what's going out, what you're doing, the response that you're getting. And that, to me, I mean, that's a no brainer. And
Right.
like you said, back to the soil products too, and this might be unique to every place, but we've gotten a wonderful response from a monthly spray of the soil products. And we're really only doing at this point Calflex and Maxiplex, but we've noticed a wonderful response from those, which you and
Right.
I had spoken about.
And I think that why we're seeing more of it, because it's releasing tie-ups, is we're in a drought. And
Yes.
so, we're helping release things that might be better released in a normal year, but because it's so dry, we're helping the soils. But at the end of the day, if we can open up the soils better and have better gas exchange and have, better environment for the microbial side, then the whole system works better. And the Predict N side is really looking at the plant side of the equation.
Mm-hmm.
It does look at it in regards to the soil side, that it minimizes the organic material accumulation through the next year and the next year. So we're slowing down the desiccation rate of the plant. We slow down the organic material buildup in the soils, and then that's just making a better growing environment. So it's part of the equation of what superintendents and turf managers have to do. There's still mechanical things that need to be done,
And there
but
is in
this is
certain
just a tool.
Yeah, I agree. And there is in certain circumstances. I think if you were right on the number with, what you thought you needed to be with organic material and that percentage, I think you'd even get a better response. Like I said, we're a little on the higher end, so we're going to have to kick it along a little bit in higher gear with some cultural things. But I mean, that's okay. But I
Right.
think once we get down to that number where we're going to be, I think we're going to knock it out of the park.
Right. I think you will.
Yeah.
I'm pretty confident you will.
Yep.
Let me ask you another question. What was your expectation going into using Predict N, and did it meet that expectation?
It absolutely met that expectation. What I'd expected, because I had used some of the products in the past, and for full transparency, when I got in trouble,
Right.
and I knew that they worked. So I expected to see some very positive results. The ease of use, I think, exceeded my expectation because like I said, it's very simple to use and follow the program, and it's telling you exactly what's going on. So yeah, I mean it's doing what I expected to do for sure.
Right. Did or in regards to the cost, is it affordable to follow the Predict N recommendations?
I think it's extremely affordable. Yeah, it is. And we are not by any means a big budget club. Um, but you're spraying in such small amounts that these products are lasting. You're not spraying where you're putting in 3, 4, 5 gallons in a tank, and it's to me, you're spraying at such small rates. And I think even if you were to split it up, we spray greens every 7 days, so those rates become smaller. But you're still, even if you're going to do on a 14 day, it's not telling you to put in 5, 6 gallons of something. So the rates are very small. To me, it's very affordable. And like I said, we are by no means a big budget club.
Right. Right. I think that's one of the beauties of Predict N is that it doesn't matter your budget. It's affordable, but it just dials it in based on the site-specific weather and the
So,
site-specific soil data.
and that's the thing. It caters to exactly where you're at. It's not like a one blanket fits all type situation, and that's kind of what drew me to it too.
Right, right. Well, what do you think has been the greatest benefit for you from using Predict N?
So this year, plant health.
Right,
I really, yeah. I mean, like I said, the ease of using it has been wonderful, and it's great to track what you're doing. But this year, being the weather that we've had where we're at, and other factors being our irrigation is quite old and everything, our greens have really held up when I don't know that they would have if we weren't doing this.
right,
And I'll be honest with you. I don't know what would have happened if we kind of didn't start this early in the spring, get them bolstered up for this, because no one knows how summer's going to be. You
right,
don't know. I wouldn't have guessed in 1,000 years that it would have been this bad this year
right.
for us. But our greens have been pretty bulletproof.
That's pretty good. What about ball speed? Are you seeing any difference in that regards?
Not quite as of yet. I think we're going to have to work on that organic number to kind of, because I'm going to go back to the weather again. It's just been so hot. We really haven't been able to toy with them a whole lot.
Right,
But I think we get into the fall, get out of this weather that we're in. I mean, it's going to have to increase because the texture of the plant is tightened.
right.
I mean, it's a much more finer leaf blade. It's and to go in a little bit further with some of these growth regulators. I don't, not to get over the top, but sometimes, heavy primo, heavy cutlass, the plant tends to widen a little bit. Now you're definitely sucked in and tight, but the plant tends to widen a little bit. So I think the less rates of that, you're going to get a finer texture.
Right. Right.
At
No,
least
I agree.
that's been my experience on this particular golf course.
Makes sense. Well, is there anything else that we haven't covered that you think we should let other people know about?
Um, I would just say that, I mean, we kind of covered the financial part of it, and I think it's very affordable. I would tell people to look into it because it's worked very well. Actually, it worked exactly how it said it was going to work, and nowadays you can't really beat that.
Right.
you know and like I said too, going back one more time, the ease of use and all of that it's great.
Um, One of the things we didn't cover on the app was the growing degree day chart
Mm-hmm.
near the bottom of the screen. And
Right.
I've seen a lot of guys look at that and realize how much either warmer or colder it's been from the previous year. And it helps tell the story of why we're seeing things or not seeing things,
Mm-hmm.
because the weather is dramatically different. It's not consistent.
Right. Yeah, and this kind of tracks that for you, and that's, I mean, that's been a big help as far as looking at this app and kind of seeing where we are. We're estimating what kind of N is coming out of the soil, and I know it's an estimate, but you got to figure this. The weather has not been consistent at all, at least this year. It's been a totally different year here for us. um so that's why it's I mean, it's worked pretty well.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I think that this is the new norm. Weather isn't going to be as
i
consistent or expected as
i
in the
would tend
past.
I really would tend to agree with you, because last year in this area we kind of went through a drought. The temperatures, we didn't have these kind of temperatures along with it, but we were in the significant drought last season, and so this year we're in the same boat, except we've just gotten extremely hot, and that's just not normal for the valley. Um,
Right.
we just we typically don't see those Northern Virginia evenings where you're 77, 75 at night, and we've been getting them, and it's just different for us.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It makes it a little more challenging for sure.
This year has been something.
Well, I want to thank you for,
You.
helping get the message out for us and sharing your success and happiness with Predict N7.
Absolutely, Chris. Thanks.